tell me when you want me to start.
What time do you have? 10:30?
Yeah, a minute.
Just to make the announcement, our meditation hour begins. It's going to take them a second to get organized, and then
Start.
it's perfect. Yeah, you can say that now.
All right.
Our meditation hour is ready to begin. If everybody would find a seat, please. Page 450. A Journey to Holiness. 15 steps. 15 songs of ascent in the book of Psalms. To what do they correspond? Our sages used to teach 15 steps led up to the holy temple in Jerusalem. And on these steps, the Levites stood with trumpets and drums, an orchestra of holiness for the singers of David's psalms. But others say the exiles sang the 15 songs on their journey home. Step by step, they ascended from the rivers of Babylon to the land of Abraham and Sarah. Another view. The 15 psalms were songs the pilgrims chanted as they climbed the hills of Zion. To celebrate the sacred seasons with matzah, first fruits, lulav, and etrog. Or perhaps these 15 songs are timeless, speaking to the innermost self, tracing the ascent to God of every soul. Our bodies dwell upon the earth, our souls thirst for the living God. Like those who came before us, we too seek the holy dimension. Then and now, 15 steps mark the ascent, song and prayer in silence and speech. Through Avodah, our act of sacred service, let us reach for the Holy One. Page 453. First step, the holiness of God. Together, may our eyes be open to the presence of the One in all things. Through contemplating the divine, may we ascend toward the holy. Holiness, it begins with the divine. The mystics of the Kabbalah teach God encompasses all that exists, everything that we can ever know. Every being the eye discerns, every phenomenon hidden from the mind. All dwell within the infinite, the one we call Ein Sof. No separate selves, no you, no I. All divisions are illusions, for all are one within God. And everything is God. So it is written, no holiness compares with God. Apart from you, there is nothing. Kadosh, 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 holy, 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 holy in the highest heaven, holy upon the earth, holy forever and ever. Page 457. The second step, holiness of creation. Together, we marvel at the abiding miracle of our existence, the primordial explosion of being and light, our origins in oneness. Through contemplating the mystery of creation, may we ascend toward the holy. When God began to create heaven and earth, the earth being unformed and void, with darkness over the surface of the deep and a wind from God, sweeping over the water, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Oneness is grounded in scientific reality. We are made of the same stuff as all creation. Everything that is, was, or will be. started off together as one infinitesimal point, the cosmic seed. Life has since branched out, but this should not blind us to its underlying unity. Said the Neshkazer rabbi, to every one of us, creation comes as a new thing again and again. And so we are bound to acknowledge the Creator again and again. Page 459. Raise a shout, all creation to God. To the name of glory, sing out. To the praise of glory, give voice. To God you shall say, how great the awe your works inspire. Blessed are you, eternal presence, creative force at the heart of existence. The third step, holy time. Shir Hamalat, a song of ascents. I am more eager for the eternal than watchmen for the morning. Together, through celebration of Shabbat and festivals, may we ascend toward the holy. The heaven and earth were finished and all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that had been done, and God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy. Holiness entered the world as God's final gift of creation. Shabbat, first taste of sacred time. A festival whose name is cessation, renewing the body, restoring the soul. Island of stillness, a day of detachment from things, instruments, and practical affairs. A day of attachment to the Spirit. Together, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shall you labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is Sabbath for the eternal your God. Page 461. As the time of creation, Shabbat said to the Holy One, ruler of the universe, every living thing has its mate, and each day has its companion. Save for me, I am alone. Said the Holy One, the people of Israel will be your mate. So when the Israelites came to Sinai, the Holy One instructed them, recall my words, Shabbat will be your mate. Thus we are commanded, remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat is yours to guard, to protect, to cherish, and to hold sacred. For our ancestors, the seventh day was a sign of their covenant with God. They kept it faithfully. When their lives were torn by violence from without, Shabbat made them whole within. When their lives were embittered, Shabbat brought them sweetness. When their lives were peaceful, Shabbat deepened joy. Our ways are not like theirs. We have leisure time, retreats, vacations, and idle days, but few Sabbaths. We speak many words, but few remind us of their covenant. We praise proficiency at time management, but forget the holiness of the moment. Let us emerge from this Sabbath of Sabbaths renewed in our quest for wholeness, reawakened to the urgent beauty of being present in a God-filled world. Let us crown the seventh day by living it, by tasting its sweetness, by feeling its joy, and by opening ourselves to it in awe. Judaism teaches us to be attached to holiness and time, to be attached to sacred events, to learn how to consecrate sanctuaries that emerge from the magnificent stream of a year. Blessed are you, eternal presence, by whose power we experience the holiness of Israel's sacred times and seasons. The fourth step, holy space. Lift up your hands to the sanctuary and bless the eternal together. By remembering the Mishkan and the temple, may we ascend toward the holiness, and enter the life of the Jewish people through the priests and their sacred service at God's altar. Said the Holy One to Moses, "Let them make me a sanctuary, that I might dwell among them." Long ago, in a tent in the wilderness, in the temples of Jerusalem, our ancestors reached for God through sacrificial offerings with bulls and goats and sheep, with grains and wine and oil. Say to the Israelite people, "These are the offerings by fire that you shall present to the Eternal." We continue silently through page 467.
We continue on page 468. Fifth step, the holy day, Yom Kippur. Together, by recalling our people's ancient rites of Yom Kippur, may we ascend toward the holy. Dawn, the holy day. The morning horizon glowed before the gaze of the watchmen as they spread a curtain of linen to give the high priest privacy. He removed his clothing and immersed in the mikvah, the first of 5 baths, then dressed himself in garments of gold. He stood in a state of holiness to begin the first offering. He kindled incense and lamps, brought forth sacrifice and libation. Having bathed again, he wore a white robe, an exquisite garment to serve the sovereign of glory. Our sages teach there are 70 peoples in the world. Among these holy peoples is the people of Israel. The holiest of the people of Israel was the tribe of Levi. The holiest in the tribe of Levi were the priests. The holiest among the priests was the high priest. The world God made is holy. Among the holy lands in the world is the holy land of Israel. The holiest city in the land of Israel is Jerusalem. The holiest place in Jerusalem was the temple, and the holiest place in the temple was the Holy of Holies. Among the days of the year, the festivals are holy. Higher than the festivals is the holy Shabbat. The holiest Shabbat, the Shabbat of Shabbats, is Yom Kippur. There are 70 languages in the world. Among the holy languages is Hebrew. The holiest word in Hebrew are the words of the Torah. The holiest utterances in the Torah are the 10 Commandments, and the holiest word in the 10 Commandments is the name of God. One word on the lips of one person, in one place, at one moment, brought together these 4 dimensions of the holy. When the high priest would enter the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur and utter the name of God, Baruch atah Adonai hamakaper lanu b'yom haKippurim. Blessed are you, eternal presence, who leads us to atonement on this holy day. 6th step, the holy act of confession. Together, through sincere confession offered in humility, may we ascend toward the holy. Within the Holy of Holies, the high priest spoke words of confession, first for himself and his family, then for the priests who served at his side, and finally for the whole community. His hands on the head of a bull, he confessed all their sins and his own. Nothing was concealed in his heart. Quietly, he spoke the 4 letters that form God's name, quietly, so none would hear. For the holiest name was known only to him. Clear and pure were the high priest's confessions, a ladder for the soul seeking atonement. The high priest's confession, God, I plead before you, we have sinned, we have done wrong, we have rebelled against you, my family and I, the community of priests and the whole house of Israel. I beseech you by your name, grant atonement for the sins, the wrongs, and the acts of rebellion that we have committed against you, my family and I, the community of priests, and the whole house of Israel. As it is written in the Torah of your servant Moses, together, for on this day atonement shall be made for you, to purify you from all your wrongs, and pure you shall be in the presence of the Eternal. After the high priest pronounced the name of God, the people bowed and knelt and touched their heads to the ground, saying, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Liolam Va'ed. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. We continue on page 473. 7th step, the holy act of sacrificial offering. Together, through generous acts of self-sacrifice, may we ascend toward the holy. Page 475. The nearness of God, priests and Levites felt it when offering a korban. Nearness came through sacrifice and a thanksgiving psalm, and our people's poet felt it in their dreams of return, the ones who crafted songs of exile, far from the sweet city for which they longed. And what of us? When do we feel the nearness? What is our korban? The nearness of God. It comes through acts of goodness, deeds of self-sacrifice, when we give of ourselves in selfless ways. It comes when we hear, truly hear, those who cry out. We continue responsively. Let now a generous presence teach us gentleness that melts our hardness of heart. Then shall we be more sensitive to the needs of others and responsive to their pleas. All whose faces are forgotten from one encounter to the next, and those who never find a place of shelter and safety. all whose bodies are burdened with pain, and those whose minds are clouded by confusion. All who die alone in spiritual darkness, and those whose isolation is a living death. All who wait for love that never comes, and those who long for a word, a touch, a friend. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kedishanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu al mitzvat korbanot. Blessed are you, eternal presence, by whose power we sanctify life through acts of generosity and self-sacrifice. Page 478. Eighth step, the holiness of Jewish memory. Together, inspired by Jewish memory and rooted in the history of our people, may we ascend toward the holy. Precious is the light by which we gaze upon the past, and blessed are the journey of those who came before us. Abraham and Sarah left familiar ways, went forth to places they did not know. Moses and Miriam led their people from fear to faith through a wilderness of doubt. Blessed is the wisdom of sages and prophets who taught our ancestors the life of holiness. You shall not oppress a stranger, for you know the stranger's heart. Let justice well up like water, righteousness like an unfailing stream. You must not remain indifferent. Love your neighbor as yourself. Out of violence and brokenness came prayers of healing, a religion of renewal, joy, and compassion. Through centuries of longing, their hearts in the east when they were in the west, those who came before us prayed, next year in Jerusalem. They bless us, the ones sustained on their journeys by righteousness and love, the ones who built lives from words of Torah, memory, and hope. Blessed is the light that makes their hope ours and their memory our sacred path. We continue responsively. Happy the eye that witnessed the ways of old, the majesty of the temple, the joyful shouts of pilgrims in Jerusalem. Happy the eye that witnessed the celebrations of our people's soul. Blessed the ear that heard the hush when the high priests enter the Holy of Holies. Happy the eye that witnessed the piety of priests who made the offerings by fire. Blessed the ear that heard the fiery words and the searing cries of prophets. Happy the eye that witnessed the throngs at the gates of the holy city. Blessed the ear that heard the psalms, the ancient songs that renewed our days as of old. We continue silently through page 482.
We continue on page 483. Ninth step, building a world of holy places, small sanctuaries. Together, with every Jewish home we create, with every synagogue we build and sustain, may we ascend toward the holy. And let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them. But will God really dwell on earth? Even the heavens to the uttermost reaches cannot contain you. How much less this house that I have built? King Solomon's temple ended long ago, left in ruins by the army of Babylon. The second temple, burned by Rome, is now a distant memory. Where is God's dwelling place now? Said the prophet Ezekiel. God has become for Israel a mikdash ma'at, a diminished sanctity, after the fall of Jerusalem and the scattering of our people. But our sages taught every synagogue is mikdash ma'at, a small sanctuary. Each carries a spark of Beit HaMikdash, the holy temple in Jerusalem. Asked Rashti, what did they call the temple? Why did they call the temple the house of the God of Jacob? And he answered, for Abraham, the abode of the divine was a mountain, for Isaac, an open field. But Jacob said, how wondrous is this place? This must be the house of God. Jacob discovered the divine in the vision of a house, and so the temple is forever linked with his name. Mountains and fields inspire us with nature's beauty, but houses are built by human hands. Every Jewish home is now a sanctuary, where goodness is nurtured and brought to life. And God's altar, now the altar is our table, where we gather to offer our best and share what we have. We continue on page 486. 10th step, the holiness of Torah study. Together, through words of Torah, through deeds of Torah, may we ascend toward the holy. Our sages teach, so bright was the light of the first day of creation that it shone from one end of the world to the other. Such light could not coexist with the darkness of evil. So God concealed this holy light and hid it away. Where is the light today? The Holy One concealed it in the holy book, and those who study Torah will bring forth its radiant sparks. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai received the tradition from Hillel and Shammai. He used to say, if you have learned much Torah, do not hold yourself in high esteem, because that is what you were created to do. We read responsively. The Torah of the Eternal is perfect, renewing the soul. The precepts of the Eternal are just, rejoicing the heart. Rabbi Meir said, if you study Torah in order to learn and do God's will, you acquire many merits. And not only that, but the whole world is indebted to you. You will be cherished as a friend, a lover of God and of people. It clothes you with humility and reverence. It enables you to become righteous and saintly, upright and faithful. It keeps you far from sin and brings you near to virtue. You benefit humanity with counsel and knowledge, wisdom and strength. You become like a never-failing fountain, like a river that grows ever mightier as it flows. You are modest, slow to anger, and forgiving of insults, and it magnifies and exalts you above all things. Page 489. 11th step, finding holiness through prayer. Together, through prayers of praise and thanks, and when we humbly ask for your help, may we ascend toward the holy. What is the service of the heart? It is a prayer. When a person, overwhelmed by the impact of a specific experience, seeks the nearness of God, or bursts forth in hallelujah, or bows down in gratitude, it is prayer, but not service of God yet. It is a human response to a potent stimulus. But when we pray, without the stimulus of a specific occasion, acknowledging that we are always dependent on God, that independently of all personal experiences, God is always to be praised and to be thanked, then, and only then, is prayer divine service of the heart. We read responsively. Our prayers take aim at eternity. Our prayers are the birth mothers of hope. Our prayers teach us to make distinctions. Our prayers are the currents of the soul. Our prayers are a clearing in the forest. Our prayers ebb and flow like the tides. Our prayers carry us in loving arms. I say with perfect faith that prior to God there was prayer. Prayer created God. God created people. And people create prayers, which create God, who creates people. Page 493. 12th step, finding holiness in nature. Together, we contemplate the sacred depths of nature, its elegant designs, its intricate patterns. Through the mystery and beauty of the natural world, may we ascend toward the holy. Excited, my thoughts give rise to a vision, your marvels, which I see with the eye of my heart, your wonders, when toward heaven I gaze, inspired to speak of your handiwork. How manifold are your works, Eternal One. In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your creatures. I used to journey at the heat of a summer's day to the kingdom of magnificent tranquility, to the forest's dense thickets. There, between God's trees, which had not yet heard the axe's echo, on a path known only to the wolf and mighty hunter, I used to wander whole hours by myself, uniting with my heart and with my God, until I came, stepping over, passing between golden snares, to the Holy of Holies in the forest, the pupil of its eye. We continue silently through page 496.
We continue on page 497. 13th step, the holiness of children, the holiness of hope. Together, our love and devotion the holiness of children, a gift to all, a treasure to celebrate, a responsibility we share. Each of us a spiritual parent, a giver of Torah, a source of love and nurture. Together, your dwellings, O Israel, like palm groves that stretch out and gardens beside the river. Ask the Midrash, what is the meaning of the verse, the gardens beside a river? These are the teachers of young children who spring forth wisdom and understanding from their hearts. All who share learning and love and cultivate generations to come bring beauty to the places where Israel dwells. We continue on page 501. 14th step, finding holiness through joy. Together, through joy and exultation, may we ascend. Each of us is called to a life of service, avodah, that is rooted in joy and celebration, and leads to thanksgiving, praise, and loving kindness. Jewish tradition teaches that such a life is the source of true simcha, the feelings of constant spiritual and moral growth, which endures in spite of external events and circumstances. Serving God with our very lives should not be a burden. We are not summoned to serve with gladness nor fear, and to serve beyond the walls of the synagogue. We are summoned to serve with gladness, not fear, and to serve beyond the walls of the synagogue. In our homes and in the street, in the workplace and in the marketplace, in all of our encounters. When we serve God in our everyday lives, a steady joy dwells in our hearts and will accompany us when we enter the house of the eternal. Page 503. We will fulfill the mitzvah of joy in both material and spiritual ways. When we buy something we enjoy, a purchase of food or clothing, for example, or when we bring happiness to other people on holy days, especially those in need. But if one enjoys oneself in excess while ignoring the poor, it is considered simchat hakaris, happiness of the stomach, purely physical gratification. The mitzvah of joy is an expression of holiness, for it brings the realization that we are in God's presence. The Talmud uses the same language to describe the state of mind of the prophets. The divine presence is not found where there is a state of sorrow, but rather through simchat shel mitzvot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu al hasimcha. Blessed art you, eternal presence, by whose powers we experience holy through joy. 15th step, seeing ourselves as vessels of holiness. Together, seeing ourselves You shall be to me a community of priests, a holy people. Responsively, how shall I meet the eternal? Shall I approach God with burnt offerings? Would the eternal be pleased with thousands of rams? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgressions? You who are a model, God has taught you what is good and what the eternal requires of you. Only this, to do justice, to love goodness, and to walk humbly with your God. To do justice, to love goodness, and to walk humbly with your God. What does this verse imply? Taught Rabbi Eliezer. To do justice means act in accordance with the principles of justice. To love goodness means let your actions be guided by principles of loving kindness. To walk humbly with your God means assist needy families with their funerals and weddings. And Rashi taught further by giving modestly in private to help them meet their expenses. Whoever performs deeds of righteousness and giving, tzedakah, and justice is considered as having filled the entire world, all of it with loving kindness. When evil darkens our world, let us be the bearers of light. When fists are clenched in self-righteous rage, let our hands be open for the sake of peace. When injustice slams the door on the ill, the poor, the old, and the stranger, let us pry those doors open. Where shelter is lacking, let us be builders. Where food and clothing are needed, let us be providers. Where knowledge is denied, let us be champions of learning. When dissent is stifled, Let our voices speak truth to power. When the earth and its creature are threatened, let us be their guardians. When bias, greed, bigotry erode our country's values, let us proclaim liberty throughout the land. In the place where no one acts like a human being, let us bring courage. Let us bring compassion. Let us bring humanity. Continue, please, on page 509. In each human hand and heart is the power to renew life, to see dignity where there is brokenness and defeat, to know and cherish the image of God in every face, to open the eyes that have closed in despair, to shelter the weak and shield the helpless, to give strength to the weary, hope and comfort to those who feel pain, to care for the earth like an old friend, to give its oceans, rivers, and forests our selfless love, to treat ponds and tide pools, the sky, and the mountains as sacred living beings. In each of us is the power to renew life. Long ago, one word on the lips of one person in one place at one moment brought together 4 dimensions of the holy. When the high priest would enter into the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur and utter the name of God. And now, every place where we lift our eyes to God is a Holy of Holies. Created in the image of God, we are all high priests. Every day of our life lived in love is a Yom Kippur. Every word that we speak in truth is the name of God. We pray from the Holy of Holies in our hearts. Our God and God of all generations before us, may it be your will in the upcoming year to grant us, responsively, a year of abundance and atonement, a year of community and compassion, a year of enlightenment, a year of going up in gladness to the land of Israel, a year of inner strength and well-being, a year of knowledge and learning for its own sake, a year of mitzvot and moments of sweetness, a year of optimism and hope, a year of quiet and tranquility, a year of song and spiritual growth, a year of understanding and unity, a year of wisdom acquired and shared, a year of young and old reaching out to one another. Our God and God of the generations before us, grant us a year of gratitude to you for the most profound of blessings, your gift of life. Together, faith, this concludes our meditation hour. The morning service will begin at 11:30 a.m.